Okay, broadcasting America's Mayor live and live from downtown Dallas, Texas.
That's right.
We're really having a fine day here, although it is extraordinarily warm here today in Dallas. I would say unhealthy, so. But of course, it's a great American city. We went to the book depository and took some film for you, which
We'll
we
play
couldn't
in it.
get, we couldn't get ready in time
We got some.
to do a complete thing for you. We might give you a little taste of it,
We will.
of what we have, and then tomorrow we'll do a little analysis of it. I don't think it's possible too often to come to this city without going to see it and remembering one of the most historical events that took place here. I know people in Dallas, back from when it first started, were hopeful that people would forget about it. I don't think anybody holds it against Dallas. I mean, it happened. It happened. It was a part of history. It came about because of the feelings and the ideas and the theories that were going on in all of America, not just in Dallas. It could have happened in any place else. It could have happened, I guess, in Butler County, Pennsylvania, as it almost did happen in Butler County, Pennsylvania, or twice in Los Angeles with his brother Robert, and with no, just once in Los Angeles. I'm thinking of Ronald Reagan that happened in the District of Columbia. So when we look at the presidential assassinations and almost assassinations, there's no connection to a particular part of America. They happen all over, and they happen for reasons that are at times completely insane and at times connected to a certain political movement going on at the time. And honestly, on the Kennedy one, given all of the conspiracy theories that have been allowed to emerge because of very, very poor investigating, there is very, very little uh, uh, certitude on exactly what happened. Single shot seems the majority believe it's single shot. There's, or maybe two shots. Single shooter, again, majority opinion, yes, but tremendous analysis on the other side. Connected to just the insanity of J. Harvey Oswald. A certain number of people believe that. A certain number of people believe it's connected to Russia, Cuba, the mafia, Lyndon Johnson. Um, Russia, Cuba, Lyndon Johnson, mafia. That's about it. Enough. By the time we finish with the Trump thing, there'll be about 4 or 5 conspiracy theories. If they don't investigate it, if they continue to have the dishonest FBI do it. And I say dishonest because we have lost all concept of appearance of conflict, haven't we? And there's a value to appearance of conflict, although at times appearance of conflict would always annoy me because it doesn't mean there's a conflict. In fact, the person that you are accusing, the person that you are accusing of that, right, may very well be completely innocent of a conflict. Okay, perfectly innocent of a conflict. But the problem is that it looks like there's a conflict, and that's bad. And looking like there's a conflict is bad enough. And in the case of the FBI investigating the attempted assassination of President Trump, it looks like there is a conflict with the FBI. The FBI has been trying to frame him out of office for how many years? It makes you completely completely distrustful that they'll be able to do a fair and honest investigation of this. The guy who runs the FBI deliberately sat on the hard drive for 9 or 10 months while the president of the United States was being accused of being a Russian spy, lying about the Russian hard drive. And while he was accused of things that were easily disproved by revelation of the hard drive. no one has actually seriously questioned the director of the FBI or the former Attorney General, William Barr, as to why or how they could possibly have withheld that for that period of time. Nobody. And that is what causes the kind of thing that you see in Dallas today, with there being tremendous concern and tremendous confusion about, was it Lee Harvey Oswald all by himself, or are the circumstantial facts of his going to Russia, his going to Cuba, his being a communist, his having a great deal of knowledge that it would have been hard for a single person to acquire and pull off in the very short period of time. It would be very hard for him to pull off in a very short period of time, in comparison to to a guy operating with a good and solid group of co-conspirators. Those things all fly out at you. Well, today is the day that Iran is supposed to attack Israel. And what I want to do, and I will do when we come back from break, is to show you where that is occurring and how that's occurring. And if it will occur, it's still less than 50-50 that it's going to occur. Let's put it that way, and I'll explain to you why. And then we'll talk about the possibility that Walls has dropped from the ticket. We'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
It moved a little.
And we're back. Welcome back. We can have you move to the side as you talk about the map. How about that, Mayor?
Okay.
Yeah, you can leave the map in the middle.
And I move that way or that way?
Pick a side, whichever side is more convenient.
I'm going to pick this side.
Yeah.
Well, I want to show you what's going on there so that you can see it
Let's situate you.
rather easily here. This is a little bit of a hard chair.
Yeah, let me come.
There's a little bit.
Let me come over there for a second.
A little harder than.
In the meantime, we'll show some images.
Now, we can see it now, right?
Yep, there's some images of the attack.
Okay, so we got a good look at it right now.
Yep.
Okay, so here is Gaza. This is what they're fighting about right there. Okay, that's Gaza. Now, up here is the second front, which is Golan. This is Golan, the disputed territories. The West Bank is down here. So the war that's been taking place, the two-front war that's been taking place, major war here, still an increasing war up here. Iran, which is over here, can they see that?
Yep.
Iran, which is over here, wants to come over and attack. They'd have to come through Syria or Jordan in order to do that. I would say that if they come through Jordan, they'll be shot down. If they come through Syria, Syria will be wiped out. The Israelis are looking for a good excuse to do that. That would be a good excuse to do it. So the question is, are they going to do it? Right now, Israel anticipating such an attack, also anticipating that it's possible that they'll be for quite some time distracted from their main goal of wiping out what remains of Hamas, which is here. They're giving warnings for people to evacuate Khan Yunis. Now, Khan Yunis is a city they've already wiped out. So they're going to do it again because there are Hamas people there. They want so basically they want to be at their goal or as close to their goal as possible if and when they're attacked by Iran, and which will then distract them from their goal of wiping out Hamas. Rudy's guess as to their goal, where are they? At about 60%. If we're talking about wiping out Hamas per Hamas, meaning all of Hamas. If we're talking about wiping out the warriors of Hamas, it's disproportionately the heavy leaders. They're, with the exception of Sinwar and the few people around them, they've gotten most of them. They are mostly gone. What is left of Hamas now is the well the guys who are the better hiders, you know, the cowards, not the warriors, and the people who are some days Hamas and some days not Hamas, which makes up a good deal of the population of Palestine, by the way. Now, to think that that's wonderful because the rest of Palestine is made up of people that just love Americans and love Jews is totally wrong. There's nobody there like that, despite the silly writings of American liberals. Um, that's a rarity, and a person who really and truly is a person who's Palestinian, loves American, and loves Jews is to be credited with being one of the more exceptional people in the state of Palestine, or born there or educated there. The Palestinians are haters of America and Israel at a massive scale. So they're not going to wipe out all of Palestine. And even if they succeed in wiping out Hamas officially, they're still going to have an awful lot of people in this part of the world and this part of the world that hate the Jewish people and want to eliminate them. And then up here, they got a whole country that is dedicated to wiping out Israel. Will they attack now? I think not. I think if they were going to attack, they would have done it. They would have already done their attack. They, I think that the same thing that led them to the faux attack 3, 4 months ago will lead them to the fake attack this time. And that is, they're not sure they can beat Israel. They're not certain that they can defeat the state of Israel. Um, they don't want to take that chance, and they do think that sometime in the next 3 or 4 years they're going to be able to do that. Their real problem, will they have to do it under a President Trump and they won't do it. So there's a second possibility here, which is to defeat Trump, which probably lies behind the threat to kill him. They threatened to kill me. I mean, they tried to kill me twice, so why would they try to kill President Trump? Makes no sense that they don't. Um, they try to kill a lot of people, and they do kill a lot of people. So I think that the threat against President Trump exists throughout the presidential election and into when he becomes president. They're going to try to kill him. Only difference is if he becomes president and they kill him, they know that it'll be carried on by J.D. Vance with even more ferocity, right? So the reality is that they've got just a couple of months to get Trump out of their hair. I think that's more important to them than trying to attack Israel and get their heads kicked in, because Israel will kick their heads unless they can attempt to go to nuclear war, and then Israel has more nuclear weapons than they do. People say, and Israel denies. So I think we should be alert. I'm telling you, what I'm telling you is about a 60% chance. No attack right now. Are they going to pretend? Yeah. Are they using it to try to get hostages released because they always get 50 to 1? Yes. Are they lying and fomenting about it? Yes. Will they continue to do that? Yes. Are we intelligent enough, because we have people now thinking about it other than Biden, Harris, and Comrade Walls, to figure it out? Yes. Are they intelligent enough to figure it out? No. Or are they too compromised to figure it out? That too. So I would say that we can um, stay alert to the possibility they're going to do it, and feel a certain amount of confidence that there are other challenges that face us that we better be more prepared for, which include dissuading Hamas, Palestine, and all the supporters of the terrorists that make up the Palestinian Authority go on and that part of the West Bank, that they're not getting a state until they stop being terrorists. That should be the one single American position. We're not suckers. We're not creating another Palestinian. We're not creating another state that's a terrorist state. So long as you ally with Iran, so long as you use terrorist means, so long as you embrace the destruction of another country and the destruction of my country, do you think you're looking at a stupid idiot? Do you think you're looking at Barack Obama or Joseph Biden or Kamala Harris or Timmy Tampon? Sorry, you're not. You're looking at a serious human being who does not create countries that want to kill their own country. So you're not creating your own country. If we have to go to war to stop it, we will. So get it out of your stupid terrorist little head and forget about what you were taught in the third grade about killing Jews and Americans, and start getting on to a positive approach there, the way the Jews did with that land. And stop this victim bullshit, because we don't buy it anymore in America or there. Man, would that solve it, huh? Well, we'll be right back, because after something like that, you need an advertisement.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Mayor, we're going to have our special guest, Commander Jay Furman, the Republican nominee for Congress in Texas' 28th district that runs along the southern border, and he's taking on Henry Cuellar, who is under indictment, which alone, we know what that can mean, different things. But this guy, he's got some real problems, Mayor. Wait till you hear about Henry Cuellar.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Laredo. I got Laredo.
There we go. Look at that. There's a picture of Laredo, Texas. Let's bring on our guest. We have with us now Commander Jay Furman. Commander Furman, do you have us loud and clear?
Loud and clear. How may, gentlemen?
Oh, perfect. Couldn't be better, Commander. Good to talk to you. And so tell us, I have a little picture behind me of downtown Laredo.
Yes, sir.
Which is on the border, correct?
It is. It is it's the biggest city on the border in this district. It's the county seat of Webb County, Texas.
And what would you consider? Well, give us your district. Give us the contours of your district.
Of course. So I like to say it begins with the Alamo. As a true Texan, my district posits the Alamo, and so we have a quarter of San Antonio, and we shoot down to the border, and we run the border from basically Laredo to what's called Rio Grande City, and then up. We're the second longest southwest border district. What's called the Rio Grande Valley, and traditionally, and Laredo. Those are two different things. And then, the worst of the worst traditionally comes through our border here. And as mentioned in the intro, Henry Cuellar is the 20-year Democrat incumbent and votes 96% with the Biden-Harris administration. And you've got a population that was converted a long time ago, Democrat, in LBJ's old district, in fact. We even have the vestiges of Duke of Duval, people may be familiar. So we're dealing with a population that has not forgotten about God, family, country. This is a Hispanic population of South Texas, and all of us South Texans. And we really are here to remind America how we began and what's going to right this ship. And this can be really the bulwark of shifting the Hispanic vote coast to coast to the right, because truly we are a match, the Republican Party and the U.S. Hispanic population, which may save this country. And 28 is going to be where we do it from.
And so, what's its history as Republican and Democrat?
It's a 110-year plus Democrat rule. So there is no Republican history here. You talk about Laredo and what's behind you, Mayor. It was its own city-state. And that was its own country for a minute in history. And then, in fact, if you draw a cut line between Laredo and Corpus Christi, Texas, that was its own land as well, its own sovereign land. There's a deep history here, a very proud history. We are extremely patriotic. We're extremely focused on the divine and on our families and community, and American as American can get. There's again Laredo behind you. There's a month out of every year that we celebrate George Washington's birthday. We call it the George Washington Birthday Celebration. And for an entire year, we have pageantry and we have Marthas and Georges that are presented into society. This is our cotillion, and the children are embraced into formal society and welcomed. And that, and also Pocahontas is featured in this celebration. So it's really an Americana story. I can tell you, and on the patriotism side, you go to a graveyard here as just an anecdote. There's probably half a dozen standards, the U.S. flag flying proudly from grave sites, 30 feet tall. It is stark. The heritage here. It's amazing from America's founding and from Texas founding. So really, historically, we're one border, one family across this thing. And I like to caption it as conservativa familia, or familia conservativa. And we have had a warm relationship with Mexico for forever. The story is, East Coast colonists coming to Texas and really mixing and marrying with the Spanish ladies that were here. That's the only way it could become landed at the time. And truly, in the Alamo, that story is actually Texians, which those East Coast colonists were referred to as, and Tejanos. And really, we fought together and pushed off the overlords of the crown. And so it's an American story through and through. And we formed this land, which was a republic for a time, and then joined the nation, the United States of America, by treaty. So a lot of people don't know, but we're the only state that can fly our flag at the same height as the United States flag. So we're very proud here, and truly the South Texas story is as Texan as Texas can get. And we're here to lead the nation back to all of our original values as well. And that's why I'm running. I retired from the Navy and came back to my home state of Texas, where I began flying border missions as a Black Hawk pilot. Over 20 years ago, went around the world, saw all the worst borders in the world, not all of them, but I did serve on some of the worst. And now our border, I can tell you, Mayor, looks like some of the worst. And certainly for what we've ingested, and that's weaponized mass migration. And here's my biggest linchpin and why I'm doing this. And to tell the story that weaponized mass migration is the biggest killer of Western civilization in modern history. It's been used as a weapon of war 84 times in modern history, and we just ingested a mother bomb. And most of those people are unwitting tools of war, but this is hybrid warfare, and they've been pushed and pulled in to our nation. This own political domestic moment, our enemies, all enemies of any significance around the world, are using this as a Trojan horse to pierce the heart of America with the wretched poor people that have been welcomed into modern day slavery and second-class citizenry, and are being raped and killed along the way, to say nothing about the cartel using this moment. But this is a moment where we need to come together as all Americans, all Texans, and no matter what your political stripes are, the barbarian that's this threat that's already inside the wire is not going to stop at our political signs. At which point it becomes a problem. And places I've worked in the world, it's still a very pungent smell in my nostrils of how quickly this can light off and how dangerous it is. So that's my district. But we are a wonderful people, and I can't be more proud than to represent this folks. I retiring back to Texas, and we're living in San Antonio, and it's just a great story of America that we're going to join everybody into.
What's the condition on the border right now, today, yesterday, right at this moment?
What's the situation? Is that what you said? Sorry. You cut out, Mayor. Sorry.
On the border, are they still coming in the same numbers, or has there been there's been a reduction?
There has. So we have a little election year construction happening here south of our border. I hear told that the administration has somehow exchanged some compensation to maybe other militaries to stymie the flow into the United States. It's amazing. It works when you cooperate and use security deterrents. So the Mexican army is actually doing a blocking maneuver south of our border to limit the flow of folks coming north, and it's working. And even before that, sir, the much of the human flow was being bent around to the west, around Texas, because Texas had taken such a strong stand, is really demonstrating, all those things I described to you. Places like Eagle Pass, where we're demonstrating states' rights matter and sovereignty is still the rule of the land, and we have harsher enforcement rules on the folks we catch for trespassing in the country. So, so that is down. Now, we still have a flow of the illicit stuff. There's still fentanyl coming across. There's still all the other things, but there's less people. There's less of a photo optic to try to clean up the place, which was already, interestingly, on the border pretty clean, because our taxpayers are paying for the NGOs hired by the U.S. government to ship them north as fast as they possibly can to really resettle this broken immigrant class into our country. And I'll just emphasize again, America is a beautiful immigration story. That's our secret sauce. But they've used that, and then one of the greatest weapons in warfare is hiding in plain sight. That's the best camouflage. And so a story we all recognize, we think we recognize, is being used against us, and the judo move against America, and really the only way we can take this land down in a physical way.
In fact, the illegal activity pretty much has to go on because they make money on that. The drug importation, the human trafficking, maybe some of the accommodation of the terrorist groups, which is really small in nature, so it's easy to do, but very, very dangerous. But what you're saying is the large migrations that we were watching on television, at least for now, they're holding back, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
It has to do with what Abbott did in the river too, right?
It is.
It's strange. I mean, they fought the battle to remove all that wiring, and they never did. Biden never removed it.
No. Well, they've been doing it kind of where they needed to. So their guys will come in and provide an opening for people to flow through as fast as they can to get as many as they can in this time period. And really, they look at this time period as kind of ceased at this moment. They need to show that their policies are working, but even if it is completely astroturfing us.
Cuellar.
I heard Cuellar there. I think what we said. Sorry, my connection. So
how is your race going?
Yes, sir. So well, it's great. I won my primary, a 4-man primary, against 4 folks that by almost 20 points, and the runoff by almost 30 points. We really see that as a validation of our message. I am truly a grassroots candidate. I'm a retired military Texan come home and to find my state broken, looking like borders I've been on, as mentioned. And I don't want that to be the reality for my state and for my country. It's a reality that none of us can suffer. It's a reality that is absolutely deadly. So it's going fantastic. Everybody feels that there's something is off. Besides the prices they see at the pump in the grocery store, and besides the increased crime that is when it is reported, it is up. Everybody just has kind of a sense that something's just completely off. This is not America normal, and we need to get back to that. And so I do nothing more than speak from the heart and use my experience overseas to provide that lens for what this may actually look like. And I speak about common sense things, and I speak about balancing budgets, and I speak about returning a competitive marketplace, and a place for meritocracy, and a place for that you can thrive and you can feel good about when you send your kids off to school in the morning. They won't be inculcated by somebody else's values, and you feel good that their education is going to mean something down the road, and they can provide the better life. This is the first time we've had folks think that, well, my future is not going to be as good as my parents, and my children certainly not as good as mine. That's not the American dream. People are dying to come in here still. But it's the irony is that sheer number of the people that come in here, even if nothing goes kinetic and we don't have uprisings like the BLM summer 2020, which I invite people to imagine that happening coast to coast with who's here if we have an unsettled mass. But the unfunded mandate of these 10 to 20, and my number's 20 million people that we let in of Biden's illegals will be insufferable so far as we won't even be able to pay the interest on the debt in 12 months. And the chain migration is out of control. We pay each one, they realize each to themselves about $2,300 a month. But that doesn't even come close to the enterprise cost or the stress on the system that these people all at once are causing. But the biggest thing people need to realize is that these people come in they announce who they are. They announce where they're from. They could be Mickey Mouse from Disneyland. And, if that was a real country and a place, we would write it down. The biggest thing I find on the border is litter of ID cards, passports, and work papers. And the Border Patrol people I talk to, guys working the line, tell me they don't have the bios of the bio IDs of these people. We don't know who they are. We are conducting the most reckless policy on the border that is threatening the safety of every American. And it won't matter your politics. This is an every American get together and let's figure out how to humanely take care of this problem very quickly so that we can get back to business normal, do immigration correctly, and right the ship, because it's almost on a full sink.
How do people help you achieve that result? Because I think one of the things that Governor Abbott and DeSantis and several of the others have demonstrated is this is a national problem. Of course, it hits Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, a little harder, a lot harder. But now it's hitting the whole country. So how do we help you get elected so these policies that are standing right in front of us, I mean, we can just do them, and how do we do that?
Well, and I have a 22-point plan that I call Plan Alamo. It really takes a lot of what Trump did that demonstrated a healthy policy. And we just need to, turn up the volume on it, because we're kind of, on our back, we're absolutely on our back heel on this at this moment. So helping me out, and we're going to deploy, and to your point real quick, we're going to deploy solutions that are nationwide, because we are all sharing this border community problem. Now, the main source of the worst comes through places like mine, second largest border, and to help those communities, you can help our community in this election. So we're deploying solutions that are going to crowdsource, informing the entire nation in an app we're deploying. And you can download my current my campaign app, and that's called Commander Furman. You just go to the Play Store or the Apple Store, type in Commander Furman, and download that app. That's the first way. That's where we direct people to go to.
I just put down Commander Furman, and I can make a contribution.
You can make a contribution at Commander Furman on the app, or commanderfurman.com. That's my website, and I need every bit. Small donations scare big special interests who are working against us.
Absolutely. So I'm going to recommend to everyone, I don't think I have to after your terrific performance and explanation, that they donate to commanderfurman.com right away.
Thank you.
Because in 80 or so days, we're going to have a choice there, and it better be the right one. And you sound absolutely terrific, Commander. I'm very impressed, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Hang in there. You got all the right values. And
thank you,
what
Mayor.
Our future is about. God bless America.
Thanks for having me. Y'all take care. God bless.
That's quite an impressive interview, huh? That we got young men like that in America. Come on, get happy, get happy.
That's right. And Mayor, speaking of Congress and the squad, we're closely watching now.
I know. I've been watching you, my other eye in the back of my head here. I know you. I'm going to let you. You're so happy. Well, Dr. Maria, she's jumping around like a crazy woman too.
Well, we don't have results yet.
Tell us the news here.
So, of course, Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, the home state of the mayor's favorite governor, Tim Walz, she is facing multiple primary challengers in today's primary race, including Don Samuels, who is a prominent Minneapolis Democrat.
She's facing the American.
He seems to be a little bit more willing to affiliate himself with America than Miss Ilhan Omar. I always mix that up, Ilhan Omar, because I think Omar is the first name, but that's the last name.
The tent maker.
And
that was a fictional character.
And Ilhan Omar just defeated him by a little bit back in 22. So folks are thinking this time around, this would be the third member of the squad to go down.
I guess maybe we would have heard it. I was going to go there and beg, but I thought maybe that would hurt. No, I was going to go beg. I was going to beg. I go like a homeless person, just begging, please, please, please.
So we will be getting those results shortly. We've got it up on our screen. Polls
What do they
close in 21 minutes.
Yeah, just forget.
Well, they remain open for 5 more hours if you're a Democrat. But
Chad, both of you don't have it. The poll, the counting stays open until she wins.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. 5 hours. So
do they have it?
We'll get those results. We'll stay on a little bit
Did
past
you
9
figure
tonight.
out where the little offices where they're printing up the ballots now that they need?
Yeah, they're working on that as we speak, right?
How's the brother doing?
Well, her brother or husband, right?
No, not anymore. That was just to get in the country. How's he doing? I just want to, he was in the news for a while.
It's not a rhetorical question. How is he doing?
How's he doing? I mean, is he okay?
I'm sure he's doing just fine.
Is he illegal? He's illegal. No, he was legal. That's how he got her in, right? He was legal and she wasn't, right?
Yes.
I think that's it.
So Minnesota, again, there are primaries today in Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont, and Wisconsin. People are closely watching this race in Minnesota's 5th congressional district. That's
Wisconsin and Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Vermont.
Vermont and Connecticut. Connect I cut, as I would.
Don't
That's why I remember how to spell
so
it.
you can spell it. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about? When does your state? Michigan has a primary.
Nope, Michigan had its primaries. No,
Oh right,
we
Rogers
covered
won.
those last. Rogers won. It was really not a competitive primary, and we're reaching out to Mr. Rogers. Hopefully, we can get him on the show sometime.
Okay. Yeah, I do want to get him on. He's a very impressive guy. We got a lot of big races here. Do you want to show them where Ilhan Omar's district is?
Yeah, so it's right in.
You seem to have it there. Can you put it up?
Yeah, like we can share that screen. We sure can, Mayor. So it's Hennepin County, right, which is Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis. And so we're gonna bring this up here for those that don't know.
So it's in the city that burned down.
That's right.
The city I was crying about on Saturday night, watching it burn down.
See if we can zoom out.
It was about, I think it's Hexapin Tavern that
Hennepin.
was burned. No, Hexapin is the name of the tavern that was burned down.
Hexapin.
People owned for 92 years, and they begged the comrade to do something about it, and he just left them there burning. And the guys who did it all bailed out. Yeah, this guy has no more tavern. His family had it for 92 years. But the guys who did it, Kamala got them out, and neither the silly, childish, cowardly boy mayor, nor the more adult-looking, equally cowardly Governor Walz did anything to help this man, or anybody else in Minneapolis for that matter. And when you watch the burning now, I'm going to assure you it's much worse than you remember. That's what shocked me. What really shocked me, and the thing that got me very close to tears, is when the police had to abandon their police precinct. I did not understand that, and I wanted to get up from where I was and drive there now and go take it back. Well, we'll be back very shortly with America's Mayor live. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain
and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Ilhan Omar. So we've got the results up. Again, we won't see these coming in until after 9 p.m. Eastern. That's when the polls close. Minnesota is in Central Time, so that'll be 8 o'clock Central. Ilhan Omar is expected to face a uphill battle against Don Samuels. That's the 4th name you see listed there. Don Samuels is described as a prominent local Democrat. And as the mayor said, I think he may have, a closer allegiance to the United States. And look, I know we take it very seriously when you're questioning someone's allegiance to the country, but I think it's fair to do so in this case based off of Ilhan Omar's own
I would
comments.
say you are fair in saying that. I would say there are a few things you can say about her that are definitive. However, she hates Jews. She clearly hates our fellow American Jewish people. No doubt about it, right? She hates you and me as conservatives. Despises us would be the better way to put it, right?
Yeah.
She says the most awful things about Christianity. So it does seem like she has a real problem with the American tradition of Judeo-Christian values. I don't think she has any of them. And she never apologizes. And she says things that 10 years ago would have gotten you thrown out of Congress. Probably a good idea if we threw him out of Congress now, because I have no problem saying she's anti-American and just hates this country and came here to hurt us. Came here from her country, illegally, I think, in order to hurt us. And because people are afraid, they don't stand up to her. The Democrat Party is made up of 2 groups of people who are professionally anti-American and people who are afraid to stand up to them. When I say professionally anti-American, I mean people who are working for the other side, people who either are here and were turned by the other side or were sent here, like her, to represent the other side. There are too many of them with too educated a following of Karl Marx and the other revolutionary leaders not to be on purpose. There are also too many of them that are dumbhead, weakhead, stupid, silly liberals that they're easy to brainwash. Liberals have always been easy to brainwash because they're more impressed and seem to think they're more intellectual if they criticize America than if they praise America. I don't know why. It makes them feel like they're more intelligent. Maybe people who smoke pipes think that way more than people who don't. I don't know. It's just the opposite. It's something I've encountered all my life in Manhattan, where not in Manhattan, but in New York and in Manhattan. And I've always found them, even when I was a Democrat, I always found them to be pompous assholes. And they're the kind of people, I'll give you a perfect example of them. If you ever just want to hear them laughing, play the Biden tape where he says he's going to he's going to hold back the $1 billion loan guarantee for Ukraine unless the prosecutor is fired. And all of the pompous members of the of Foreign Affairs, which is a very prestigious organization of people that are smarter than you and me, and they really are not smarter than me because they asked me to join, and I told them to take their newspaper and use it for what take their book, which I actually love their book. I used to read it all the time, but it's filled with propaganda. It's filled with the view of foreign policy that Karl Marx would definitely agree with. It's a kneel down, kiss the ass of every other country's foreign policy. It has occasional sellout conservative authors will write for them, which is kind of useless because it gives them some claim on some kind of moderate behavior. But the reason I was mentioning them was when Biden confessed directly to bribery, which to any second-year law student would have been impossible not to note if you pass criminal law 101. All of these geniuses that are more intelligent than you and me got up and applauded. It's like when the state legislature of New York appointed 9-month abortion. You know how angry I got about that? Look, I have a complex position on abortion. I have a position on abortion I almost fight with myself every day over because of the morality of it. I'm a Catholic. I was brought up a Catholic. I can't tell you, put abortion aside, that I subscribe to every position of the Catholic Church. I don't. I think I subscribe to enough of them to be legitimately able to describe myself as a Catholic, personally, in my relationship with Jesus. My position on abortion is extraordinarily complex. It is not complex because of politics. People accuse me of that, but I'm out of politics now, and it's still very complex. It's very complex because it's an extraordinarily difficult decision to make, given the views of my fellow citizens. I am extraordinarily affected by the views of my fellow citizens because I am also very aware that I live in a democracy. I do not live in a Rudy Giuliani dictatorship. Despite the claims that were made about Trump or a person like me, because we're tough on law and order, people love to say we're dictators. We're just the furthest thing from a dictator. And we have tremendous respect for the limitations that are placed on us. And even when I get up next to them and therefore have to decide whether I'm going to be restricted by them or I'm going to interpret them in a way in which I can overcome them, I'm very, very careful about it and circumspect and consider it for a long time, including afterwards. I was brought up that way. I was trained that way. I truly believe that democracy, and I'm talking about democracy in the broader sense, not just the majority rules. I'm talking about democracy that includes the rule of law. Democracy that includes just as much protection of the rights of the minority as the majority, which is inconsistent actually with the democracy. But we still call it that, and we've come over the years to define democracy as about 10 things that it isn't, all of which are crucial. I understand that. I've always been governed by that. He understands that. He's always been governed like that. I wish you were with me the night that it came up that the military should be used internally in the United States. I wish you could have seen his reaction. Obviously, I'd gone over these papers. People were recommending doing something. I recommended against it. I would be a terrible American if I didn't. And despite what all the liars say about me, I'm driven completely by patriotism. And when I explained to him what was in the papers and briefly my recommendation, it was like, of course. I didn't have to talk him into it. My God, he would have to he would have broken my arm, I think, if I gave him any other recommendation. The man is a moderate with regard to the exercise of power as a president. I mean, it's amazing. He has tremendous respect for the Constitution. He has tremendous respect for what his role is in the entire stream of things. Having said that, he also has tremendous respect that it's also his job to assert his role aggressively. Otherwise, the president will be wiped out by the competing powers of court and legislature. Each one of them has to be aggressive about their powers. They can't step into the other court, but they can't let the other court step into them. Does that make sense? Then we'll do a better explanation of this as time goes on, because among other things, this election for the first time in a long time is really about constitutional values, separation of power, balance of power between the three branches of government is at issue in this election, isn't it? The right of free speech is very much at issue in this election. We talked about that in the earlier show. The right of free exercise of religion virtually gone. Is it great? Before we start fighting over in Ukraine or even in Israel or elsewhere, we got our values being taken away from us here at home. And you got a guy on the ticket that is almost a poster boy for it, Comrade Walls. This is a guy as governor, I mean, nice and quietly in that Minnesota. We were calling out Cuomo and Murphy and his girlfriend, Whitless and Goofball on the West Coast. We were calling them out left and left. I can say left and right, left and left and left. But that they got away with it a little. Now that I look at the record, Ted, that guy was worse than they were. Comrade Walls.
Worse than
I mean, he was like ideologically driven. They are personality driven. I don't know about Newsom. That ceremony for Mr. Z was like a ceremony for somebody that you really admire. I mean, we're going to show
bizarre.
Show that again. But all these Chinese people, and I hope they were put up to it. I hope they don't really believe it. Cheering and cheering and cheering for the guy that had so many of their own people killed has got to be a set-up communist whack thing done by the governor. I'm going to go back to my Italian heritage for a minute. I wish my mom or dad was around, or some era. I'd ask them, what do you think would happen if Mussolini was brought to America for a parade? You think the same thing would have happened to him that happened to him in northern Italy? They took him and his mistress, they took him behind a wagon and they dragged him through the streets. That's because northern Italy, and I'm going to tell you a secret, that's because northern Italy was communist. And he was a fascist. But it was also because they were pro-American, both. Italy was very, very much split north and south in many, many ways. They had a strong, at that time, communist party. They had a very strong Christian Democratic Party, which was pro-British, pro-American. And they had this fascist party that borrowed from both and convinced both they were part of it. Remember, the fascist party was socialist by economic theory. So this appealed to the communists for a while, which gave Mussolini great power. He also would use bad guy, tough techniques like Hitler. So that appealed to the people who thought Hitler was going to win. And he actually would express his great love of America that all Italians express. Many have it, but some don't. But Italians are, as Italians are beautiful in the way in which they produce operas and songs and poems, they can sure convince you they love you when they don't. That doesn't mean that a lot of them don't love you. They're wonderful people, but they're like everybody else. They can be phony. But when they're phony, they're good. So this was a really confusing state. They had fought with us in the First World War and seemed to be less German oriented. In other words, if you were going to bet before the war for all of his yelling and screaming, who would Mussolini have gone with? You would have bet England. It seemed to be the country, even more than America, that he liked the most. And he kind of, I think if Churchill had control of England early, without all of the Biden-like kiss and ass that went on of Germany, I think Mussolini would have been on our side. Not because he was a good guy, because he would have thought Churchill was a lot more powerful. I mean, he was driven by the same thing Putin was driven by. Putin was driven by watching Biden's pathetic display of cowardice and realizing that he's a thoroughly useless human being with nothing left. I think he came to the same conclusion about Chamberlain. And he worried about America because he knew the secret that we still don't expose, and that is that Roosevelt might be a good man, but he was really surrounded by communists. And where would he be if he was allied with the U.S.? But the chance of his being allied with Great Britain and through Great Britain with the U.S. would have been a possibility if Churchill were in power in 34, 35, 36. Not only was Churchill not in power in 34, 35, 36, he was considered the most irresponsible man in England then. History is very, very strange, and you have to know it if you can analyze the modern world. Does it repeat itself? Not like a movie, right? It repeats itself. And I want you to think of the single reason why history repeats itself. Why would it be so common that history would repeat itself? Ted, wait, can you tell me just quickly why you think history would repeat itself?
Well,
Even from people who don't know history. Just
well,
think what comes into
so
your head when I say that right
the-
off the top.
Censorship, communism, the way the press in this country works with other institutions
I'll
to.
tell you what it is.
Okay.
Human beings are terribly different generation to generation. So they make the same mistakes and they make the same right decisions. So history repeats itself because the little groups and the little failings we fall into are part of human nature. And they fall apart. The more they fall apart and they create more violence when we've fallen them because of repetition, and they're not part of human nature. So, for example, we fall into this idea that if we only fed everybody, if we only gave everybody everything, that would be wonderful. What we don't realize is that that creates the worst kind of violence that you ever could create because it creates a deathly kind of anger and resentment. And we'll be right back as we get the door.
We'll be right back.
And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee.
Oh, well, I can't. I got to make it. Here I am. Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. Now, what is it we got to keep people up with? That here I was giving them the philosophy of how human behavior repeats itself and how that leads to the now 200-year or so battle between socialism and we call it capitalism, but how about we call it normal human behavior or common sense human economics? But in any event, all of that comes to a point in history, which is today. So first thing we're talking about is Ilhan Omar, and is she going to win or is she going to lose? And what is it? We wouldn't know. We're not going to know until probably about an hour from now, I would think, right?
That's right. Well, the polls close in just 1 minute. It's the top of the hour, and the polls close at 8 p.m. local time. That's
We'll
9
stay on for a few. Dr. Maria's lighting candles.
So we'll stay tuned and just check the mayor's social media. We'll make sure to put.
We
something
will.
on.
We'll put a couple of blurbs on. We're going to be back. We're going to be back in home territory tomorrow. We're making the trip early, and we should have some perspective on things. Give you a little background on Dallas, on what we saw here, and do our special. We'll do a special tomorrow on a combination of Frank's speech and here of what we saw at the book depository. It was Dr. Maria and I had made an analysis of it about 3-4 years ago, the two of us, and we had help from several people. and came to a lot of conclusions about it. I'll see if I can find some of that as well. But I think in light of the of the Trump attempt at killing him, it's an interesting thing to look at and to see what they didn't resolve that puts us in a position of not being able to definitively really decide on a theory. And I will grab for reference sake, because there are many books on this. I'll grab for reference sake my friend O'Reilly's book on the assassination, which has the value of one being short, so you can read it in preparation for tomorrow night and maybe even the weekend where we'll put a special on about it and try to get your participation. And it isn't overly insistent on a particular theory. He doesn't try to prove a theory to you. He tries to prove five. You see the value of that? Tries to prove five, and then he tries to show you. He does do it. He doesn't punk off completely, which is really wonderful. He gives you the one he leans toward. Although he would say he still believes it was a single shooter without a conspiracy. But he does admit it might not be. And that there is more than enough evidence to suggest that it wasn't, and more than enough evidence to support two or three different theories, most of which you probably know, but it's interesting to see how you get there. But I'm telling you, it is critical. If you want to understand this, to go to Dealey Plaza, stand there, watch it, and please have someone describe it to you. Because if you watch it now, you will say he couldn't have done it. But if you go into that book depository and look at the museum and see that that tree wasn't there at the time, you can see that a good shooter, not a great one, could have made that shot. Not terribly more difficult than the one made by the guy who tried to take out Trump. And remember, they all weren't successful. He got the chance to get off more than one at the president.
Well, we'll do a quick warning. This is graphic. This shows the shots. There's the first shot. The second one, you'll see his head
slow it
lurch.
down because you realize it all takes there's always a second or less of complete shock and not realize. You see that with Kennedy. I mean, Kennedy's head was blown off and he didn't move for a second. You can't get emotional looking at that. You can't get emotional looking at anything.
So this is a warning, but I wanted to show this before I show a quick clip, Mayor, just to give.
I don't care what you think of our president. I don't care what you think of John F. Kennedy. If you don't empathize and if you don't see the horror of this, and if you don't realize the tremendous impact this single act had on the United States, then you're not a particularly sensitive or intelligent person. You can have a hard time in life. The same thing with Trump when he came up bloody and his hand. If you're not affected by that, just because for some reason you don't like Trump or whatever, there's something wrong with you. I mean, Republicans were terribly affected by that. That's a human being we're watching. And a human being, in his case, who was constantly trying to help his country. And the same thing with Trump. Trump is constantly trying to help his country. Do they have selfish motives for it? I don't know. They're human beings. Gosh. Are they doing it because they're St. Francis? I don't really think so. Are they doing it because they're better than most other men? Yeah. Most other men won't put up with the sacrifices you'd have to put up with to help other people the way they did. I'm describing two very different people with their own set of good things and bad things, good policies and bad policies, and alleged lack of morality. Were they better than most of the people you know and meet? You're damn right they were. And have they done more for the country? Trump in his 4 years and Kennedy in his aborted 3.5. Yeah. And did they do a lot for the country beforehand? Kennedy in battle and writing, and Trump in building. I mean, they say, well, Trump wasn't in the military. Well, not everybody's in the military, but everybody contributes. But not as much as Donald Trump contributed in building New York. One of the great builders of New York. It's an unbelievably difficult city to build, and it's enormously important to the culture and the power of the United States of America that it's built right. So this is a man who has had his series of contributions maligned by the evil pursuing him, which is why I support him so much. I support him also because now it's come down to the fact he's the only one who can do it. They haven't tortured anybody enough to really understand it as they have him and me. Hard to understand it unless you've been tortured by them. When you've been tortured by them, you get it. I'll explain that to you as we have more time. I'll keep you posted on when the interview with Dr. Phil is coming out, which I did today. And Ted and I are going to spend a little time working on what we brought back from the Dealey Plaza tonight.
And I'll play a quick, if you don't mind, Mayor, I'll play a quick 15-second clip just to give people an idea.
Sure. We'll play the 15-minute clip now, and then right now, before we go, we will ask you to please pray for the people of Israel who are waiting for an attack by Iran, which I would say could come, but I'm hoping it doesn't, and I'm leaning toward the fact that they're lining up some other strategy here, not a quick attack. Let's see if that's true. And I'll ask you to pray for President Trump because I really do believe they're going to make more attempts on his life because they're at the point of desperation. As this self-created honeymoon fades away, as it already is and has been, really with the stink and the skunk odor brought to the ticket by Walls, people are going to start getting desperate again. So be careful, my friend, huh? And pray for him, and God bless America.
The Texas Book Depository, the first shot occurred up there where that marker is. Second shot right here. Grassy knoll across the street. And of course, he went under this overpass on his way to Parkland Hospital.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the